Good morning, guys. Today we are going to understand Ansible for the network engineer. So this Ansible is actually designed for various purposes, but here in this course we'll understand how the network engineer will get the Ansible benefits, right? So this is Ansible is actually work in Linux operating system. So it will be good if we know the Linux, and Linux is one of the editor which is VI editor. So this VI editor is used to how to configure a file, how to add the line, how to delete the line, how to copy, paste, and everything. So whatever we do in a notepad, that is happening here in Linux, that is VI editor. But now this VI editor is used only for those machine which is having the older Linux. So if we know it, then it will be good. Otherwise, we have one more editor which is called Nano. So this is, I guess, this is much advanced compared to VI editor. So it will be good to know, but it's not mandate that you must be aware of VI editor. So we are okay. Now let's move next and understand what is Ansible. So Ansible is a configuration management tool which is a agentless. Like we don't require to put the agent or any of the agent kind of configuration on the remote devices, right? So it means that Ansible can only be installed in one of the machine, and from which machine and from this machine we are able to get connected to the remote devices without having the any of the agent or any of the configuration is required. It's an open source application that is used for IT automation platform, and we can do the automation of any devices. We can do it for network. We have the various platforms which is available. We can do the automation for servers, which server team is aware, right? So it's an open standard. Now in this course we are going to focus for of network devices only, and we have the various devices which we can use for automation purpose. Various vendor is going to be support. It can support, of course, it's a Cisco is supporting, but it also support HP. It also support Juniper. It also support Meraki and many other vendors. So we have the good number of list which is going to get support the network devices of multiple different vendors, right? So this Ansible was previously it was it was open source, but in 2015 October Red Hat has been purchased it, and once it has been purchased, the Red Hat did some modification and pick up some of the module under their control. It means that we have some of the module like A, B, C and D, which we will discuss. Out of those, they pick up some of the module and start giving the support by Red Hat. So if we think that we require some Red Hat help during our production environment, then we can pick up some of the module which Red Hat is actually supporting. Otherwise, we can play with the Ansible, which is not Red Hat supported. Now, commonly referred to Ansible by Red Hat. Once the Red Hat has been taken this Ansible, then it's called Ansible. Now, whenever the device, remote device is going to be connected like this, so it's generally take SSH, right? So it's a simple that most of the time we get the connectivity of the network device and via the telnet or SSH, and nowadays the telnet is most popular because it's secure. So Ansible use the same method as SSH, so we don't require to configure any special or any specific port for connecting the remote devices from the Ansible host. Ansible is installed on Linux, so we cannot use this on Windows, right? So at least we required a one Linux operating system where we go and get it Ansible configured. When the Ansible talk about, then we says the Ansible is written in Python. but it doesn't matter that we required the Python knowledge. It will be fine if we are not aware about Python, but it will be great if we know the Python. Ansible operate in a push-based architecture. It means the configuration which we want to get, they are going to push something onto the remote devices, and the remote device will get the configuration. In fact, it gives some instruction to them. It means it gives some instruction to the remote devices, and the remote devices performing some action. So in this way, this Ansible is actually work. So as I said, we have the various module, a quite good range of the module which support the multiple vendors for the network specific. We also have the option for the server as well, but in respect of the network talk, that we can see that we have the good number of list available for the network devices for the vendors as well. Now the Ansible, as I said, the some of the module is going to be supported by Red Hat, and some of that are not supported. So the modules are, which is the main component, is that Ansible Core. That is a open source. It's easily available, but it's not going to get support by Ansible, by Red Hat. Second module is Ansible Engine, which is a same code as Core, which you can see here. It's the same code, but it's fully supported by Ansible, fully supported by Red Hat, right? Whatever the code you want to execute, you can take help from Red Hat itself. They also build up a GUI based tool, so that we as a network engineer, if we want to execute it, we want to execute something, so it may not be a big challenge to work on over here. So we can see a GUI based environment, which we know that a GUI based environment is a bit easy compared to the CLI. So in Ansible Tower, they convert the Ansible core into the GUI, so that the non-technical or non-Ansible aware person can easily get it and understand it. But it's a license based product. It's not free. So whenever we talk about or work on the tower, then we need a license per node basis. Ansible AWS is another module which is open source, and it comes under the Ansible Tower. So these are the major four module or major four component which Ansible is having, right? So we work on Ansible Core now, because I configured the lab in our environment, that is Ansible Core, but the way of configuring it's almost the same for either its engine, or either we can go for the tower or AWS, right? Bit change, a very minor change, but it's majorly the same. Process will be the exactly same. Now use case where actually this Ansible is required. So Ansible required many places. Where exactly? So Ansible can be used for which you want to automate any of the task. It can be used for the configuration management, provisioning any of the devices, application deployment, any task need to be automated, IT orchestration, and network automation. Absolutely, that is what we are going to focus now. Network automation, right? So the use case is that if we need to deploy our servers, then we can use this one. If we need to deploy some of the application like load balancer, remote start, stop, add load balancer, we can use it. We can configure some NTP configuration. We can check either the NTP is configured, take a backup, remove the old configuration, push the new configuration, and then backup configuration once again, and the save configuration again. So think about just for this NTP configuration is, if we need to do this configuration on 500 devices, and if this task take 1 minute for the one devices, then at least we need 8 hours to change an NTP configuration on 500 devices. It's a regular 8 hours task, which this Ansible is actually helping us and do it without stop. IT orchestration point of view, we have to ensure that we have the power up database network storage, front end devices, backend devices and ensure coming up in an active order. And the use case for the network devices. So the network device, we can deploy the standard configuration on multiple devices. We can do the security audits and remediate as well. We can check or we can push the standard VLAN configuration to all the devices. We can verify the routing table before and after the changes. We can take a backup of the configuration. Right? We can generate a templates. We can verify what the operating system is running. We can verify the uptime of the devices. We can verify multiple other things. You name it, we have it kind of solution they have it. Right? So we can give the name that we want to execute this particular task in network, and the solution is available in Ansible. Right? So we need to create a script, and then a script will go and execute the action. Now, as I said, there is no license. So the license is absolutely free, especially for core, which we can do the practice. But of course, the Ansible engine and tower, they are the license version. And from the certification point of view, which is of course we actually required. So the certification says Ansible Red Hat provide the Ansible, which is DO457. This is the code for network automation. Right, so for network engineer, this is the one of the good certification which Red Hat is provided. So will be great if we plan for this certification, and the course contents is actually tell about the Ansible knowledge on the network devices. To install the Ansible on your workstation, or if you start the Ansible learning, then this is a prerequisite that in your workstation Ansible 2.5 or higher version must be installed. You have the network devices at least one or more than one. It will be great if you know the basic Linux command, or at least how to configure the file, which I mentioned in the beginning, VI editor, or we can say nano editor. And we must be aware how can I configure directory, which is mkdir, or maybe how to copy a file, how to move a file, how to rename a file, or how to change directory, how to move back from the directory. So these are the few basic things which is expected from the engineer. At least he know how to configure a file and this and that. If no, then it's fine. In this course we do this multiple times, so we can easily grab. And then the next, which is very important, of course, we plan to work on Ansible on network. So it will be absolutely mandate that we know what is networking and how the network switches and routers are going to be configured. So now moving forward, this is one of the very high level of Ansible workflows, which says that we have the Ansible Management node, which is this one. Ansible Management node, we need to configure some of the playbooks. Playbooks is nothing, which is a script actually, which we plan to execute on the devices. But what devices? So that device information we need to mention in the inventory folder. So in this inventory, this is one of the file which contain the information about what kind of group I want to use, what kind of devices I want to use in my script. When my script is going to execute, so it will pick up the file, it will pick up the device name from the inventory file, and then do the SSH on the remote devices. And once he is able to SSH it execute the script which we have written. It execute the script, or we can say it execute the task on the host which we want to get executed over there. Same thing, it's go and perform to all the other devices as well. Right? In this way, this Ansible is going to get work. Now the home lab will understand in next video how the home lab is going to be configured.